Are you guys coming to the AGM and convention? We really do hope so. It'll be October 29th and 30th. It'll be held at the Cambridge Hotel and Conference Center. And anyone I don't see, I'm going to personally email. See you there.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Flock Talk. I'm Erin Morgan.
And I'm Walker Ball, and we work for the members of the Ontario Sheep Farmers.
Today, we're joined by Gord Schroeder, former executive director of the Saskachewan Sheep Development Board. Gord, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, and congratulations on your retirement. After so many years in the industry, this is undoubtedly a major transition. How have the first few weeks of retirement been treating you?
I would say the first few weeks have been kind of like I feel like I'm on vacation, but reality is starting to set in because I don't have that big responsibility on my shoulders, and I am definitely much more relaxed. And so I am enjoying my first few weeks and looking forward to what the future has for me.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm so curious if you'll start a hobby because usually when people first get into retirement, they're really enjoying the freedom and then all of a sudden they go, I need a hobby.
I've never had hobbies per se. My hobby has always been work and engagement, leadership, and volunteering and those type of things. So hobbies are going to be a challenge. So I know I need to continue on where my passions are and what makes me get up in the morning and looks forward to the day, I guess. But so I would anticipate it still be involved in leadership and consulting and that kind of stuff. So that's my hobby.
That's great.
Amazing. Yeah, still lots to offer.
Yeah. So, Gord, can you tell us about your career in the sheep industry and what was the industry like when you started and how has it changed over all these years?
I got started as a larger flock producer in the early 1980s, and so I fell in love with the industry very quickly, but very quickly I realized that the industry had no supports for production in our province. Anyway, I would go talk to a vet, and vet says we don't do sheep, and so not interested, just euthanize it. Looking for nutritional information. There were no feed companies that were really focused on sheep production and nutrition. Our Ministry of Agriculture didn't have nutritionists there. And so there just wasn't a lot of support for us as producers. And so I've said for many, many years, I have a degree in hard knocks. I learned everything the hard way because there wasn't the support that we had or we needed in the beginning. And so that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to get involved more in the industry. I felt like I could lead change, I could make changes. I have been told I've always had an eye for looking at the big picture and figuring out what the blocks were to get to the end goal. And so I applied for the executive director position when there was a vacancy there with the goal of I'm a producer. I know what the needs are, and I can make change because I've got my feet on the ground. I know where we need to go, and so things really have changed from there. But I would say the industry just didn't have no support structure for production in place when I started. Marketing, nutrition, predation control, all those things were lacking that we needed to really get what I would say confidence in the industry to invest further in the industry. We saw a lot of cottage. I mean, I ran 500 ewes and I would have been one of the bigger producers in our province. Now that's not necessarily true anymore. Like there's lots larger producers, but there just wasn't the confidence to engage and put financial resources into it because it didn't have the structure in place that it needed.
Wow. And yeah, the industry now is professional, and the organization you have built is delivering a lot of value to the producers in Saskatchewan. So lots of change.
Yeah, and I've always been one that if you want to be respected as professional and legitimate, you need to be professional and you need to be around the tables and do contribute and just believe in your industry to move it forward.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So when you reflect on your career, what were some memorable moments?
I thought of that question lots, and there's been lots of little ones throughout the years, just major improvements, little things like my first invite to the minister's office to have a conversation about the sheep industry, because we didn't have that recognition. Sitting down with the Western College of Vet Medicine and talking about the sheep industry and what the potential is for that sheep industry in the province would be one. Um, just putting together, the 2019 Canadian Classic in Humboldt, Saskatchewan, for me was kind of a highlight where the whole industry came together. We had lots of good representation from across the country. We had a large trade show. We had shearing competitions. We just had a lot of things, and I said to myself, and the Minister of Agriculture was there, I says, here is our industry with lots of potential. And so that would be a highlight for me along the journey. When we achieved or got the attention from the ministry about predation and the impact it was having on our industry, I think was another one that I can look back and say the lights went on for the ministry at that time. And so that gave us opportunity. Another highlight would be just feed companies recognizing that there's an opportunity in sheep production. And so once you get feed companies and see value in that and see that there's margins to be made, that encourages growth. So that would be on the production side. I think on the personal side, I think, like as I mentioned, the highlight for me would be just the appreciation that I experienced after I announced my retirement. It was quite emotional to some degree because I had phone calls, emails, gifts right from across the country that I just said, I've been here a long time. I must have had some positive impact on the industry. And so that for me was a really a personal highlight, and leaving the industry in a place where I love the industry, and I was appreciated, and what I can give back to the industry in the future.
Yeah, it's very well deserved. Mhm.
That's a really good feeling to come to the end and have that appreciation. Really, it really makes a difference.
I've always said I didn't retire because I'd had enough. I retired because I thought it was time for new energy, new ideas, and new skills. And so I was turning something over that we built to take it to the next level.
That's big. I know you had touched a little bit on with the previous answer, but what are you most proud of accomplishing with the board that has set up the industry for future success?
Most proud of, I think that we actually have a voice with government. I jokingly say earlier when I started, the only reason I got invited to go and visit with the minister was because I kept phoning and kept phoning. He said, the only way I'm going to shut this guy up is to invite him in and we can have a conversation. So, but when I
That's the
got in the
secret.
door to the ministry and started being able to share what the opportunities were, from the recognition we had in the 80s to what we have now, I mean, we are part of the conversations with Ministry of Agriculture, and well received and respected as an industry and legitimate industry. And so that would be one that I'm very proud of. I think another one I'd be is that we've created structures in place. So we look back now, or we look at the industry now, we do, if you want nutrition support, you have it. If you want vet support, you can get that. If you want to do research with there's opportunity, like in our province, the Canadian Western College of Vet Medicine is very much engaged in the sheep industry. There's lots of research and lots of interest in there. So the support structures to improve what we do and to do a good job what we do are definitely more present today than they were years ago. And so I'm proud that we could gain the respect of those different partners. The other thing I would say would be the predation program we now have. Predation is still a challenge for livestock producers, and it's always going to be. But we have management tools, and we have compensation, and we have programs in place now that we can weather those storms and we can survive those storms. And I think we can have confidence that we're going to have predation pressures, but we can manage it, and it's not going to devastate us to financial ruin. And so I'm very much am proud of that part of it. We've done a lot of work we, unlike Ontario, our markets are not here locally. And so,
Mhm.
our producers didn't have confidence in markets because we were a long ways from the markets. And so, to market our animals was very difficult. Always discounted dollars and those type of things. And so we needed to find a way to have confidence in marketing, and so that we could have channels that we could market, different options we could market, that we didn't have to take it or leave it attitude, because it was a take it or leave it attitude for many years. And so we needed to provide options for producers that they get to choose where they market, how they market, in what format they market, and those type of things. And so um, there's lots of options are now for producers to market, and so that is something that has grown. And like I've said over the years of teaching classes and stuff, we can go to all the work of producing and lambing and growing out those lambs, and then if you have to give that lamb away at the end, you've accomplished nothing. And so
Mm.
you need to be able to be rewarded for that. And so I think that's something else. And the other thing, and for our province, we are in a financial position now where we are in a good financial position. And when I started years ago, there was no money. We were basically broke at that point in time, like many industry groups are. They have no money budget to work with. And so we're in a much better financial position in Saskatchewan than we were years ago. So I think those are we've been able to set up a good basic foundation that the industry can grow on.
Mhm.
Support mechanisms are there. And so the current leadership can take and build on what we have, not stay stuck on what we have, but build on what we have, because of the basic foundation is there.
Yeah, that was an incredible amount of work. Um, and so I've heard from lots of people that you were able to do a lot with the industry with limited resources at the start compared to some of our counterparts in other industries. So this is a question that I'm really interested in. How did you approach prioritizing what your organization does for members to maximize the budget without getting stretched too thin? Because that's always, when you have limited resources and limited staff, you end up working more hours to get it all done. So how do you balance the needs with the time?
Well, I will say I put a lot of hours into the industry because of the passion for the industry. As a producer, I wanted to see it succeed and to move forward. I wanted myself to succeed as a producer, to go
Mhm.
that way as well. And so I think what I would say the key for me to start with was I wanted to listen well. The producers that are engaged in production day to day knew what their needs were. And a lot of them, if you really sat down with them and have conversations, knew some of the solution as well. So they could be a part of that solution. So through all the years I've been here or as executive director, was I wanted to listen well, and I wanted to engage producers in finding part of the solution through them. There was things that, you know, beyond production that they didn't have the tools to fix or whatever to work with, but they did have the production side, and they knew what we need to do there. And so listening well, engaging producers would be one. We needed the confidence of the producers. In our organization, service fees or checkout dollars, whatever, was what drives our industry here. And so if you didn't have the confidence of producers, it was very difficult. And so you gain confidence by listening and engaging. So that was a priority I had. For me, strategic planning. We have this much money to work. What are our high priorities? And what do we need to do? And part of the priorities, I think that you need to engage in with producers is that they often say, well, it's all about production. But if you don't have the consumer confidence or the buyer confidence, you lack there as well. And so part of listening was to engage consumers, producers, buyers of lambs and those type of things to say, what do we need? What are your needs? And how do we work together? And so it was, again, going back to listening to those that are buying our products.
Mhm.
And we need to do that. So I looked for partners. I am very much on, we can't do this on our own. So how do we partner? And so there again, partnering with the ministry, partnering with the College of Vet Medicine, partnering with feed companies, with veterinary association, building those partners, because they all have resources that they can help build an industry. And so if I didn't have the funds, I could put seed money in, but other partners could help build on that. And so getting the respect of partners and working with them was very important to that. And the other part for me was building different revenue streams. I didn't want to be in a position where the whole sole responsibility financially was based on or laid onto producers' shoulders.
Yep.
How do we create revenue streams that don't rely on just producers to pay the bills? And so I think the U Shop was my drive for that. First of all, to get producers to have access to what they needed at a reasonable cost. But then now in the last number of years, we've definitely reached out beyond the industry, and so we're bringing new money into the industry through selling wool products and novelties and those type of things. And so there's different revenue streams that are coming into that, and project money, research money, administrative money, those type of things. And so we in our province, when I left, roughly 33% of our budget was actually checkoff dollars. So
Wow.
66% came from other sources. And so it wasn't like it still has a burden on producers, but it wasn't all on their shoulders. And so I think diversity of revenue sources was extremely important for us to accomplish lots. Accountability. Well, I was very transparent with product partners, with producers. This is the need. This is what we have. This is what we've done. And so just being very accountable to them. And of course, there was things that I would have liked to have done with my resources, but it was personal agenda was set aside for what the industry told me they needed. And so it was, here's what I was told, this is what I heard, this is what we need to do, and so let's spend the dollars where the industry wants to go, not necessarily where I wanted to take it or whatever else, but this is a priority that the industry sees.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. That's how to run an organization. Bottle that up. Sell
Yeah.
it.
Wow.
I think I've always found that listening is such an important part. Um, to hear what was actually being said is so important.
I think you're
Yeah.
totally right.
Listening to absorb, not just to hear.
Yeah.
So looking to the future, Gord, what opportunities exist for the industry?
I think for a lot of provinces now, we've been able to develop support structures in place for production. And so growing off of that, like the basic needs of industry are being met, I believe. And so we have an opportunity to grow and to expand, and the market opportunities are expanding, growth opportunities are expanding. I mean, when I started, we were producing about 45% of what was consumed in this country, and now we're sitting at 35%. Like we're losing ground. And so the opportunity is there. In our province, a big agriculture is still very much driving the economy, and so agriculture is a priority for our government here, and so we have that year, which will help us develop it as well.
Mhm.
We have a lot of young people that want to be in agriculture, but really can't afford to be in agriculture. If you look at cost of quotas and land costs and uh, this structure costs like barns and facilities costs. I mean, it's out of the reach of a lot of young people if they want to be in agriculture. And I think that, I know that lamb production is still affordable for a lot of people to get into. And so
Yep.
it is, if you're young and you want to be in agriculture, take a look at the lamb industry. And in the lamb industry, when you get young people involved, the technology is there. They've grown up with technology. The energy is there. Their lifestyle. They want to make money, which is great. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think historically we would say that, well, if we can pay all our bills, we're good. The lifestyles are different now, or there's got to be something left. And so the management is improving as well. And so I think that's an opportunity, is to feed off our young people to grow the industry. I think there's a big opportunity in environment in our province anyway, grazing leafy spurge, brush control up in the forestry, solar farms. I mean, there's a lot of, the buzzword is let's control without using chemicals. Sheep have an opportunity to do that, and so there's huge opportunities that we're seeing in our province of using sheep to manage noxious weeds and control, old grasses and those type of things. And so I think we can have an impact in the environment that is very positive, that we need to promote. It's in some cases it's a secret that we aren't, we don't want to put out there. And I think we need to say, like, we have the animals that we can do this, and we can do it without chemicals. I think the other opportunity that is there, we've been kind of divided as a country on, like, we market lamb, but we market a provincial lamb brand name, for example. And I don't want to criticize that, but I think there's huge opportunity if we were to all get behind the fact that it's a Canadian lamb industry.
Mhm.
We're marking Canadian lamb.
Yep.
Instead of a Saskatchewan lamb or an Alberta lamb or an Ontario lamb or whatever, we are marketing Canadian lamb, and we're in this, and we put our resources to marketing Canadian lamb. I think we would see a large growth in consumption there as well, and especially if you take a look at more of the value added things. And so I think the Canadian lamb concept has opportunity that needs to be looked at, and the strength in that brand name, or that unity of working together to market. I think there is some real opportunity there as well. So, and I think the last thing, genetics in our country have improved greatly over the years, and there's good programs out there to manage and make decisions based on data. And when you start making decisions on data, you can really improve things quickly. And the management tools there to do that are in place. And so um, I see just a whole lot of upside to our industry. And I think that was one of the things that I said to myself, can I carry it to the next level, or do we need new skills, new energy, and those type of things? And so I kind of said, time to hand it off and let the new skills, new energy, and new ideas take over from here. But I'm hoping that the new leaders will look at the past and say, how do we build on this, and not just set it aside and say, well, we need to do something completely different. I don't think right across this country there's been good foundations built, and so let's build on that instead of starting from scratch again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally agree with all of everything that you've said. Um, and not to take I don't want to put a negative spin on it, but you can't talk about all the opportunity without also talking about the possible or potential pitfalls, the things to avoid, because that's the other part that comes with experience. You see the road ahead, and you've also, learned from the hard knocks. So, what are some possible pitfalls that you see ahead, things that we should be actively trying to avoid?
I give a lot of thought to this question, and I don't want to, I know it's a touchy subject in some areas of the country and those type of things, but I think one of the things that are pitfall for us is independence. We seek to be independent of a sheep industry in our province. Can we work with all livestock sectors in our province? That's just an example within our province. Like, we don't have to be independent as a sheep industry. There's things we can learn from other sectors, and we can grow and build together, and we can lobby together. And so lots of times we want to be an independent. We want to do it our way, and we think our way is the best way. I think we have to try and get beyond that and say, for the good of the Canadian industry, what do we need to do? And some of that will be definitely, I would encourage national unity. I would encourage sharing resources, because we don't have a lot of money in the industry to doubling up on a lot of research or doubling up on resources and those type of things. And so how do you work together to share what we have and everybody contributes? I'm not a big fan of, free ride, but in some cases, there's some provinces maybe that can't contribute a lot, but we can all contribute something to the Canadian industry and to grow the industry. So I think a pitfall for me would be that independence. Got to do it ourselves. Lack of sharing what we have would be a pitfall that we have, and we need to get beyond that. The other division that I think we need to get beyond is, and I recognize that the industry's got a commercial side, and the industry's got what I call a cottage side, and so there's always that friction. Like, you need to concentrate on what's good for the large producers, and then the small producers say, well, we need the basics, and so there's always that pull and push to where we spend our time and stuff, and so. But I think if you take a look at what's good for the larger producers and build programs and structures in place, they're also good for the smaller producers.
Mhm.
And so, if you want to be a small producer, I started with 12 sheep, and so was a small producer, but I ended up with 500 for many years. So let's be a little bit more accommodating of what we think our needs are, and what's good for the industry. I think will help as well there. So, and then I think the last one, listening, paying attention to what first the buyers want. We've got into producing some lambs that are, I guess we say they're cute, or we want to do this or that. The buyers know what they need, and the processors know what they need. And so we need to listen, because if you produce a product that they don't want, you're not going to get paid for it. And then we blame the industry. It's really not an industry fault. It's what you chose to produce. And so listening to what, first of all, the buyers, processors want, and what do the consumers want. Consumers are paying the bills, and so you need to produce what they want. And I've had that discussion with many producers over the years, and they said, well, I've produced this lamb and it's a good lamb and they got to pay me top dollar for it. And I said, well, you go online and you order a blue large jacket and they send you a red small jacket. Are you going to pay for it? You need to provide what just been ordered. And so if you want that top dollar, produce the lamb that they want to pay for. And so that means putting aside personal agendas and personal preferences, maybe. But if I want to be successful, this is what I need to do. So,
Good point. Did you have any mentors in the industry? Did you have anyone that you looked up to? And if you did, what did they teach you that you've carried throughout your career? And could you share some with us so we can use them?
I actually sat down with my wife and asked her. I said, "So who mentored me?" And she says, "You just got dumped into the situation with nothing, and you built it from there. So there was really nobody that really mentored you through that process, and there was people along the line that had ideas and those type of things, but I really don't have somebody that I followed my work plan against, or my strategic planning, or how I did things. It was something that I did, and I developed, and I was gifted with, I guess. But one of the things I will say is, if I look at a mentor, my dad's work ethic was probably my biggest mentor. I knew how to put hours in and to work and have passion for what I did from my dad, and so that would be one of the things that I would say would be my mentor. And the other one, I don't know if you call it a mentor or not, but just my sheer passion for the industry is what drove me to make things better and to put the hours in it required to do what I needed to do. So I can't look back and say this particular individual did this. There's a few people along the line that I would say it's not really a mentorship or mentors along the line, but there's been a lot of encouragement from producers.
Mhm.
When you're listening to producers and you're working with producers, there's been a lot of encouragement throughout the years, and that was evident when I retired as well. So,
Well, that's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, that works. One of
Sometimes-
my favorite people and one of my mentors actually is from Saskatchewan, Mr. Barry Senft, who is the CEO of Grain Farmers of Ontario for a while. And I, at that point, before he came, I didn't even know who the Rough Riders really were. But then he came in one day in big green suspenders and taught us all to love Canadian football. So, but his advice to me was the only way to eat an elephant was one bite at a time. That has
Yeah.
stuck with me my whole career.
Yeah, I think, the one comment that I said, listen well, my dad was that way. You listen well and just hear what's being said and act on what's being said. So, and then again, I said the work ethic. So,
Yep.
but that was
No,
a difficult one to think about because it's not like I said I've been independent and done all myself. I just look at working as a team, working as a group to develop it. So there was not one individual person, but it was a group of people and a passion for the industry that moved it forward.
mhm. And I'm sure you have good advice for the next generation, for the people who are carrying on after you. What have you passed along to your successors?
What I passed on to the staff that is now in place is one is listen well. Your producers will have needs and they'll have things that they want addressed. Like I've always encouraged my staff that, when people phone in, it's a crisis. Often it's a crisis on their farm, and so they want to be respected. They want to be heard, and so how can we solve that? And so listen well, respect other people's opinions because they can be a part of the solution. I've been amazed at how many times when you say, well, we've got a problem, how do we solve it? And you've done all kinds of research and looked at it. And if you just sit down with some producers that are engaged in the industry, they have ideas of how you would solve it. And so take on what their ideas are and then develop the structure around it. And that might be research, it might be a program, feeds, those type of things. And so listen well and share resources. Go back from producers sharing their ideas. Producers want to work together to improve the industry. That's one thing you'll find about the sheep industry, I think, is that they're willing to share with each other and to encourage each other and to do that. So I encourage our staff, listen well, share resources where you can, avoid personal agendas. When you get into a personal agenda, you're going to run into problems. And so you want to avoid that. I've encouraged them to look at the industry not as a Saskatchewan industry, but it's a Canadian industry. What do I need to be a part of the Canadian part? I need to look after my producers in Saskatchewan, but our markets we do have markets here and it's growing, but we need to be out beyond our province for us to be successful. And so how do we look at it at the Canadian side of that, and how do we unite around that Canadian concept, and what can we contribute to that Canadian concept? Now let's not strive to be independent because we'll struggle if we want to become independent. And the other thing I've told them is that there's a foundation there, but don't be afraid to build on that. Like when you get stuck in the past, like this is what we've always done for 10 years or 20 years or whatever many years, you're going to run into problems. And so take that base foundation and how do you build on that? And new ideas, make change. Sometimes you fail, sometimes you succeed, but if you not willing to take that step and try change, you're not going to build an industry either. So building something doesn't mean you succeed every step you take, but from learning from what mistakes you've made and making alterations and going is always better. And I have a saying that I had on my wall: you never get stuck in the mud unless you stop moving. And once you stop moving, that's when you get stuck. And so just keep building, keep changing. Don't be afraid of change and go that way. So that's where I have been. And the last one I told them was ask for help. There's resources out there. There's people out there. Don't be afraid to ask for help because we often think that asking for help shows weakness. In my mind, asking for help shows strength because you know that you don't have all the answers and you want to work as a team and you want to build partnerships. So that's where I would say to our leadership across this country, let's find ways to share, to listen, and to build on the foundations that are there. We've had some great foundations built, and look at the industry as a whole of a Canadian industry instead of independent segments of different provinces and different regions of the country. Let's build a Canadian clam industry.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we needed you to have a mentor to pass on any info. That was the mentor info we all needed.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
really great. That's actually very applicable to all industries. And yeah, that adaptability is so key. And a good reminder too that when we're building, not every step is going to feel like this massive change or growth. You know, it's sometimes just that little block that we can step on and we see the results later, or that impact. That really is going to stick with me.
Yeah, and we can build planning for the future, but I'll go back to BSC, and I mean, nobody could plan for BSC and what impact it had on the industry. So a lot of things that fell short. It wasn't the fault of the industry, or it wasn't the fault of the individual. The environment changed, and so when the environment changes, make the changes to accommodate, right? And so,
Yeah, absolutely. So, Gord, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to in retirement, other than sleeping in, probably?
actually, I'm trying not to sleep in because I feel like I want to get up and have a purpose in the morning. So I'm still driving myself to have a purpose each day. But I will say right now, it's rest. I put a lot into industry for a long time, and I feel like I just needed a time of rest and regaining some, I don't know, strength, if you want to call it. But and that after the rest part, I mean, we're planning to do a little bit of traveling. My wife and I, she's retiring as well, so we're going to do some traveling for a while, and then I'm going to look back and or look ahead and say, what where can I contribute? Is there an opportunity to be involved in the sheep industry and further? Is there other things I can do? I'm involved in a lot of different leadership organizations, and so I really don't know, but I do want to continue to contribute to organizations and to people's lives and to success of what people are doing. And so what that looks like, I'm not sure.
But no more sheep. Like that part of your life is behind you. We're not going to grow the industry through you, or
I am not going to do sheep. The reason I do not have a flock anymore is I ran into some health issues, and I had to choose between industry and production. I'm not sure if you know that. This is just kind of an aside, but out of the 28 years I was at the office, I was driving an hour and a half one way to work 4 days.
holy.
And so I was running a 500 flock plus working in the office. And so I basically hit a wall and burnt myself out. And so I had
can
to make some
imagine.
lifestyle changes. And so at that time, my kids were not coming back to the farm. And so my wife and I decided to sell the flock and just focus on the industry. And so I have no land base now unless I use sheep in my backyard in the city of Warman. So I won't be in the production side. But I've, in my retirement, people said, "Are you done with the sheep industry?" And I says, "I'm not committing to anything and not saying no to anything. I just want a time of a break and refreshing, and then how I engage in the future will be determined." And I've said to people, I says, maybe you don't want me in the industry. Maybe you want new people and new ideas. And so we'll just wait and see where that all goes and where the opportunities come forward. So, but
Well, I hope that's not the outcome. I hope that we keep you in the industry with all your knowledge, and I hope there's a teaching opportunity at some point in the future. It sounds like you do have a lot to offer and to teach.
well, I do appreciate that. Yeah, I've had a passion for it. I want to see things go. And so, like I said, we will see. I am not saying no to or yes to anything at this point in time. We'll wait. Like I said, we're planning to do some travel and stuff for the next 8, 9 months. We'll take some time for rest, and then we'll see what happens in fall and go from there, I guess.
Well, that's exciting. What's first on the travel plan?
Having livestock on your farm and then only having 2 people in an office, it has made it very difficult to get away on any extended holiday. And so my wife and I are both, we like to fish. And so we are planning middle of May, we're going to hook up to our camper and we're headed up north. We're going to fish for a couple of weeks. And then we're headed west. We love the mountains and we've got plans to be at campsites and traveling through the mountains. And this,
Wow.
we've told our kids we're coming home. We don't know when we're coming home, but we're coming home. But we're just gonna head west and then travel there and see where that goes. And my
Wow.
dream has always been to travel east as well. Like through my years before Zoom, we used to travel a bit more. And so I've been at Canadian Sheep Federation meetings in every province right across out east. And I've seen a lot of things, but I did that on business trips and myself. So at some point, we're going to get in a vehicle and we're going to head east as well. And just, I have lots of friends in the industry that I've built over the years. And so that may be next year's endeavor is to head east, head west this year, head east next year. So we'll see.
Well, that would be cool. Yeah, we hope to see you. It's yeah, we went to Newfoundland as a family last year and highly recommend. We went from one side to the other 3 weeks and I could go back in a heartbeat. So this country's beautiful.
There's much in the country that is worth seeing and that we haven't seen or we've seen very briefly because it's been a business trip or that kind of thing. So yeah, I want to experience Canada and see where that goes.
Well, that's an amazing plan. I wish I could join you. This country's incredible.
Time will come.
Yep.
Only 20 more years, Aaron.
Yes. Only 20 more years. That's how many, with 4 children, I think I do need to work 20 more years to pay for them all.
Well, I will give you a little piece of advice with it goes by quicker than you think. Like when I took on this job as executive director, I would have been 35, 36. My kids are all older than that. So I look back and say, boy, how quickly that went, right? And so, but your time with your kids also goes by very quickly. So I guess one of the regrets I would have is that I had a real, like driving that hour and a half one way, trying to keep a farm going and keeping an office going and stuff. I mean, you can't be everywhere. And so I did miss out on some kids stuff that I, wish I would have been there. But having said that, I did a lot of driving through the night to get to kids stuff. And so I was young and energetic and I would just do what I needed to do to be where I had to be. So, but.
Wow. Yep. Well-deserved rest. Well-deserved. Thanks, Gord. We appreciate all your insights into the industry and your advice. And and thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. You're an incredible asset in the sheep industry, and it's great to have you on the podcast.
Right. Thank you so much.
All right. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Flock Talk, please subscribe to your podcast app to receive alerts to our future episodes. And please share our podcast with your friends.
For more Ontario Sheep Farmers content, follow us on social media under the handle @Ontario Sheep Farmers and visit our website at ontariosheep.org.